Welcome to the Cashflow Ninja, the podcast sharing how to create and grow income streams and manage, multiply, and protect your wealth in the new economy. Are you tired of trading your time for money? Do you desire freedom today instead of retirement in 10, 20, or 30 years? I'm MC Laubscher, and this is the Cashflow Ninja. Hello, Cashflow Ninjas. MC Laubscher here, and welcome to another episode of the Cashflow Ninja. I have a great show for you today. In today's show, we're going to look at tax lien cash flow. My guest in this episode is Melanie Finnegan from Tax Lien Wealth Solutions. Melanie manages the daily operations of her company. She manages also the portfolio management and portfolio consulting. As one of the only women in the nation that is a Certified Tax Lien Professional, obtained from the National Tax Lien Association, you can feel pretty confident in her processes of purchasing and vetting liens and her education. She has been investing, educating, and assisting others in becoming successful in the tax lien investing industry for over 10 years. Her commitment to her relationships and client successes are the drive behind the company's foundation. Super excited to get into this cash flow strategy. By the way, I've launched another podcast, Cashflow Investing Secrets. It's a shorter show, 10 minutes or less, where I share one concept and or idea at a time that I've learned from interviewing over 500 cash flow ninjas and studying millionaires and billionaires for over 2 decades. You could check out Cashflow Investing Secrets on your favorite podcast platform, your favorite video platform, or your favorite live streaming platform. Simply type in the name Cashflow Investing Secrets and you'll find the show. Savvy investors know that in order for the miracle of compounding interest to work, its magic, you have to be constantly invested in all stages of the economic cycle. So the question then becomes, how do you find solid investments when the stock market is close to all-time highs and everything else just seems so inflated? That's where our friends at ASIM Capital come in. Since 2011, ASIM has helped more than 300 accredited investors allocate more than $25 million to mobile home parks, self-storage, and workforce housing due to their ability to perform well during economic recessions. If you're interested in learning more, head on over to asimcapital.com. That's ASYM capital.com to get instant access to their investment offerings. MC Laubscher here, the creator of the Cashflow Ninja and Cashflow Coach at Producers Wealth, where we help our clients integrate infinite banking with their business and investments. To learn how you can create your own banking system to turbocharge your investments and business in 30 days or less, go to yourownbankingsystem.com. That's yourownbankingsystem.com. Melanie, welcome to the show.
Hey, how are you, MC?
I am doing fantastic. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I'm happy to connect. And by the way, I like to share everything with my audience because this is kind of funny. But Melanie is super, super cool. We actually try to record this on a different day, but 3.5 years into the show, I had internet failure for the first time in an episode. So I appreciate you being a great sport, Melanie, and bearing with me. Welcome back to the show. So happy to connect with you.
Oh, so happy to be here. I feel really privileged, so thanks so much.
Can you please share a little bit about your background and journey with my listeners?
Yeah, so I am a business owner. I own Tax Lien Wealth Solutions, and I do tax lien investing. Started 10 years ago, and just needed a job, and I like to say it's happenstance. I didn't go seeking tax lien certificate investing out. I'm in Utah. They don't have it here. So I didn't go seeking, didn't know what it was, and walked into those doors and went on a journey that changed my life for sure. I started the journey.
Fantastic. Now, you're also, before we get into tax liens and tax deeds and the differences and so forth, you have an accreditation of that very few folks have in the industry. Can you share more a little bit about that and how that works?
Yeah, of course. So I have what's called the CTLP, which is Certified Tax Lien Professional.
Okay.
What that is it is the it's very powerful. So you have to get vetted. You have to have at least a minimum of 3 years experience. Then they have to approve your experience. It's very, because what it does is it kind of puts you a little bit head and shoulders above others that are in the industry, just because that's a very difficult certificate to get. And I received that about 3 years ago.
Fantastic. So let's dive into this. In the U.S., as I've learned over the past 2 decades, there's tax liens and tax deeds. What are these, and what are the differences between the two?
So a tax lien certificate is a certificate of claim against the property, so that has a lien placed upon it. It's just it's a result of unpaid property taxes, and it goes through an auction process. So it's an enforcement method, and it's used by the government. That's a tax lien certificate. It yields interest. Tax deeds are like just what it says. It's actually it's to collect delinquent property taxes, but you actually will receive the deed to the property as the investor, and you'll sit on it for a period of time. And each state is different. So 26 states are tax lien states, 24 states are tax deed states. So you'll sit on it. Each state has a different period of time or grace period that you'll sit on it, and they all have interest attached to them. But the only difference is that you have to initiate the foreclosure with a tax lien certificate. With a tax deed, when that when that period of time is up, you will actually just receive the deed. The deed is yours.
Gotcha. So how do these work for investors? How do investors typically invest in them? So let's just say, I own a house. I don't pay my taxes on it for some reason. I'm assuming I would probably be underwater on my mortgage then as well. But yeah, so how does it work from there? What takes place?
So tax lien certificates actually supersede every lien holder out there except for IRS IRS liens. So your income tax liens, anything like that's on there. That's the only thing that supersedes a tax lien certificate. So even if you are underwater, if you have equity in that property and the bank does not the bank does not go in and update the taxes and pay it, then you take it with no mortgage. It's free and clear always. So that's number one. Number two, how are they acquired? You actually have to go to the auctions, or you'll go online and do some bidding. But it's very institutionalized. So competition for you and I, if we're just regular people, is fierce, and it's really frustrating, which leads to the reason a lot of people don't actually know much about this investment vehicle. It's very institutionalized, like banking institutions, large hedge funds monopolize this industry.
Very, very interesting. So what happens do the banks just write off, the debt at that stage? Because a tax lien, you have first position, right? A first position lien.
Yes,
so what happens to the bank's claim to it?
It's just gone, because they get notified if the property is going up for auction, anything like that. If it has tax lien certificates, the mortgage lien holder will be notified. If they don't take action on it, then they just put it probably on their insurance, right, by the loss.
Gotcha. And typically, what does the cash flows involve for investors? So let's just say, you were able to go to an auction and get a tax lien and take that over. What does that typically look like?
8 to 36%. Our average here is our goal is 14 to 18%. But my 10-year average is 23.7% for the clientele.
Wow. And then how long do they collect the cash flow on it until that lien is paid off by the property owner?
Yeah, so in the primary market, they have that grace period, right? It's not something that you guys, once you're committed to the tax lien and you, as the investor, have purchased it, you basically have to wait and see for that grace period. It's called the redemption period, where we do our investing. It's in Florida, so they have a 2-year redemption period. If it's not paid by the property owner and you haven't received a check or an ACH deposit from the county, then you have the ability and capability to go in and file the foreclosure and force payment that way.
Gotcha. And the players, that was the other question that I had. So this is very institutionalized. So this is hedge funds, investment banks. These guys pounce all over it. So the average person basically doesn't really get into this fight to get hold of it.
That's exactly it. And that's why we did what we do. So we buy from the institutions. So we buy them on the secondary market as my company, right? We buy them, and because all they are in it to do it, they're not a real estate firm. They're this interest that they yield from these tax lien certificates is kind of the backbone of their institution. And they just sell them off in the secondary market because they have no business doing any type of real estate transactions.
Interesting. So if you don't mind sharing a little bit about your operations too and your company, and I know you've got an overall strategy you'd mentioned there that you actually purchase it from those guys. Where do you maybe start with where you guys fit into this ecosystem and how it works?
Okay, so I'm not sure where your listeners are as far as if they know tax lien investing and secondary market and how it works, but all it is that we go in, my company, Tax Lien Wealth Solutions, will go in. We have an education format. So I wanted to teach people because I became passionate about it, right? Wanted to be the industry expert and really know the business. And so what I wanted to do is give everybody an opportunity to learn. But there's a lot of companies out there that do that. And I wanted to set myself apart. And so what we do is we have a certification inside of my website that gives you access to my inventory. I buy in bulk from the institutions, and I vet and cherry pick them and make sure that they're going to make money either way, if we get property or if we just yield the interest. And so we just buy them in bulk, and once the people are certified, they can put in their portfolio request. If they don't want us to get certified, they can have us actually manage their money, and they just have to pay a little bit higher. It's 4% between servicing and management fee.
Very interesting. Now, for folks that this might be their first touch point on tax liens and what they are, you've mentioned a couple of reasons why they are very desirable. What other pros would you list besides obviously the returns that is very attractive? It's obviously a different way to invest in real estate. And what are some of the negatives? What are some of the cons, if you will, and some of the risks involved?
So there's two risks. Okay, due diligence is huge. That's why I do I have an algorithm I've created that has just done really well for us. And how I pick my liens are an interest gain. It's what's called a horizon lien to value. And I just make sure that we're on top every time with my algorithm. And that's the safety of doing it with somebody that knows what they're doing, right? If you guys go in and you're just excited because you want 18% interest or 23.7, whatever it is, you want that interest. There's some due diligence that needs to be done on the property. Are there nuisance liens attached to the property? Because those liens also, the municipality liens will stay there sometimes. But people need to know how to research the property. You can actually do it from your computer. You don't have to have boots on the ground like everybody says. The numbers don't lie. But you really need to do your due diligence. And then you need to make sure you have the money, the working capital, in case that the property doesn't actually, just pay off. You don't just receive the check in the mail. You need to be prepared to see the investment through, because you'll have to pay off other lien holders. Sometimes people don't know that, and then they lose their investment because they can't see it through and it expires. So it has a statute of limitations. So those are the three, the statute of limitations, not having enough working capital, and then your due diligence.
And this is county specific, right? So this is, we covered that some states have tax liens, some states have tax deeds, but this is also very county specific in how they operate and work, from my understanding.
You're absolutely correct. So counties and municipalities have their own rules and regulations. The coolest thing about it, my favorite thing about tax lien investing, is it's one of those things, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. It was created, the history of it was created in the 1800s. And I'm fascinated with that because it's something that they really haven't tinkered with. It's working. People are doing it. And just so your listeners know and yourself know, tax lien certificates go to, and my father was chief of police, so I have a very vested interest, right? It goes to, the reason we need our property tax money is to pay for the school teachers, the stoplights, the police officers, firemen. They have a budget, so they have to meet this budget. The counties are never out any money. They just facilitate everything, and we as investors and property owners get those taxes paid.
Gotcha. What are some of the so we have a range of folks listening into this. What would be some of the things that you would advise folks to do that's new, that's starting? Obviously, you have a ton of education, some of the steps that they can take, and more in our investors that have been investing for quite a while that's interested, maybe they're even accredited. What are some of the things that they can do for their next step with tax liens?
So this is another beauty of tax lien investing, right? Anybody can do it. We just got our first youth, so he's 16, and with his mother's permission and stuff. But anybody can do it because it's their certificates. If somebody wants to be inside of a real estate investment, you can get them from under $100 to hundreds of thousands of dollars, because all of a tax lien certificate is just the amount of 1 year back taxes.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so anybody can do it. Like, obviously it takes money to make money, right? But just start doing it. Watch. I always say to the people, let the investment earn your trust. Don't jump all the way in. Let it earn your trust and show you how well it works. Start with that small amount. If that's all you have toward investing, at least you're doing something.
Yeah, absolutely. So start small and build it all the way up and learn the process, learn the ins and outs, and so forth.
Yep. Because there's a lot of moving parts inside of the vehicle, and I learned that so much. That's part of my education. I would constantly learn all the moving parts and the little things that go along with it, And so, but you can start very, very young, and you can start with very little money.
You're listening to the Cashflow Ninja, the show helping people all over the world create monthly cash flow and achieve freedom today, not in 10, 20, 30, and or 40 years. This is the show where cash is not king, but cash flow is king. We will be right back after a word from our sponsors. Kings, queens, and royal families, along with the nobility and ultra-rich, have warehoused and stored their wealth for centuries in gold and silver, art, land, and real estate. These assets have stood the test of time through centuries and have been a great place to preserve and protect their wealth. Like gold, silver, land, and real estate, art has been around for centuries and will be around for many, many more centuries. That's why the ultra-rich will continue to invest in art and preserve their wealth in art. While the S&P declined 5.1% in 2018, the art market returned 10.6% and was called the best investment of 2018 by the Wall Street Journal. Masterworks is the first company to allow investors to buy shares of great blue chip art masterpieces by artists like Picasso, Monet, and Warhol. You can get set up on their platform at cashflowninja.com/art. My friend Dave Zook from The Real Asset Investor says you can be conventional or you can be wealthy. Pick one. The Real Asset Investor team creates value for investors looking for higher yield returns from ATM machines and self-storage investments. Their syndications offer attractive investment opportunities that produce strong cash flow, equity growth, huge tax incentives. They are truly passive and managed by a world-class team. To learn more about the exciting investment opportunities the Real Asset Investor offers, such as their ATM and self-storage syndications, please visit cashflowninja.com/Real Asset Investor. You're listening to the Cashflow Ninja, the show helping people all over the world create monthly cash flow and achieve freedom today, not in 10, 20, 30, and or 40 years. This is the show where cash is not king, but cash flow is king. Now let's return to our interview. Now, you had mentioned the state of Florida, and just for interesting sake, so what was some of the things that's attractive about Florida and about Florida tax liens that's one of the states that you guys look at?
So I created that's what I learned first was Florida because I was taught to learn that. And then I was able to develop a strategy that involves compound interest, and which is, the best thing in the world, the eighth wonder of the world. So we focus in Florida because also there's opportunity for acquisition, but not, maybe about 1% opportunity. My company right now, we have 130 properties, and my son, he's been doing it since he was 14. He's 20 now, and he has 5 properties.
Wow. And this is properties through tax liens, or this is properties that was claimed from the tax lien?
All tax lien property.
Wow.
Yep.
So what is the worst case scenario? You have one of these. How do these things turn bad? Obviously they don't pay the taxes, and then you take over the property.
Yeah, so people, again, we have to have working capital on the back end in case we get the property. There's a lot of numbers that will communicate with you non-verbally, and that's how we do the algorithm and stuff. But it will tell you if it's going to increase your chances of acquisition. If you're wanting to get acquisition, you need to set yourself up so you have working capital, because there can be things like clear title. A lot of the clientele actually get, or investors, they go into a paralysis with acquisition, which that's what all of us want. We all want property. I don't ever promise it, because it's 99.9% of the certificates redeem, and what that vernacular means is just you get your money back plus your interest. People pay their taxes when their property is threatened.
Gotcha. So there's an exit strategy, and you have a couple of different plans already in place with systems and processes that if this goes into a situation where you end up with the property, you have a system and processes in place for that, whether you either hold it or whether you sell that.
So if you don't mind, may I give you an example?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So first of all, we have buyers I've developed relationships with buyers. I'm actually collaborating with one of them, and we are kind of joining forces a little bit because I want them to be our head buyer. That they'll just go in and buy the properties or do lease option on them or whatever. We have boots on the ground in Florida with, the rent maintenance. What is that? Management, the rental management companies or property management companies, and also contractors. So one of my clients a few years ago, I had invested him in about $50,000 worth of certificates, but he had another 50 grand, and he wanted to put it all in. And I said, no, in case you get this one, because there was one telling me that there was going to be a higher chance of him getting acquisition, but he wanted acquisition. But we knew he had capital to bring that to an after repair value, and kill it if he got it. I didn't think he was going to get it, but I wanted to protect him. So he ended up getting the property. So he got it for $6 grand. And it was a 2-unit in Duval County, Florida. It was a 2-unit. He put in the 50 grand in repair, and it is now a $150,000 property that's paid for free and clear, and it yields $800 a month on each side. So he's getting $1,600 cash flow.
Oh, wow.
So we know when it communicates to us, right? A lot of times I'll say, just keep your money safe right there until we see this one through, just in case we get the property.
Yeah, absolutely. What are some of the things that you're learning right now and studying right now? Because as you mentioned, there's so many moving pieces here. There's so many different angles and parts. This is quite a fascinating strategy. So what are you studying right now? What are you learning? And what are some of the things that you're finding intriguing with regards to the strategy?
Well, look, one of the coolest things too, guys, is there's no scarcity in tax lien certificate investing. So there's $14 billion worth of deficit every year. $14 billion in our nation.
Wow.
Property taxes. So they are either going to be a tax lien or a tax deed state. That's not a strategy, but I just kind of want your listeners to know there's not a thing, a scarcity tactic there at all. There's no scarcity. They also thrive when there's a recession. So they're recession proof. They meaning that people aren't paying their property taxes, so real estate investors know that they're going to get more properties of higher quality, and they are recession proof. I don't have to learn. I'm willing to learn anything. I'm willing to study in depth. But what I study right now is every state's state statutes. So I can't just be an expert in Florida. I've got to know all my stuff. So Montana is actually Montana's making some changes right now. And I'm so excited because it's one of my favorite states in the U.S. But it is emulating Florida's tax lien investing, and I'm just eating that up right now.
Awesome. Awesome. And you've had a lot of success, and it's not always been, rainbow and unicorns, as they say, right? What are some of the things that you've learned on your journey? What are some of the biggest lessons that you've learned, and what are some of the things that are working in your life right now, both personally and professionally, and why do they work?
Well, first of all, I never thought, 10 years ago, I was 30, so I'm aging myself. Thank you very much. And I didn't think about retirement. I don't know if I thought I would just wake up and it would be like, oh, I'm retired. I've got all, I wasn't prepared. So as I started investing people and watching how people were utilizing their 401ks, converting them to self-directed IRAs, because we're an approved alternative asset class. So that was something that I found fascinating. And then the things I learned and mistakes I made was I went to the company and I was doing all my work, behind the scenes. I was going home, studying, wanting to be, an asset to the client and maintain that asset status. But I didn't know all the little moving parts. One of the biggest ones was clear title. So once you get a tax deed from a tax lien certificate, you need to clear the title. So in Florida, after 4 years, it has clear title automatically, but people don't want to sit on a property for 4 years. And the cost of clear title can be about $1,500. And there may be something may come up, and there may be something on there that's a fight, and so you have to be prepared for that clear title with acquisition. Yeah.
Absolutely. What are some of the people that you've studied, and have there been some mentors that you followed, and who do you continue to study?
I had a client that his name is Ken, and he knows me very well. He's 70 years old, and that man is something else. He was my mentor. I would call him. I travel nationally now and go through and do presentations, and I get scared to death every time, just like I do when I do these podcasts, but I'll call him and he talks me off the ledge, or he gives me the advice. I made him a lot of money, and we've been thick as thieves since then, and he's my biggest supporter.
Fantastic. Now, our core message in our show is to leave our families, communities, and the world better than we found it by passing down a mindset, values, and principles to future generations, not just money. So if you cannot pass on any money to future generations, and we're only allowed to pass on 3 principles to them to build wealth and achieve happiness and success, what would they be?
So to build wealth, so you're asking me the 3, building wealth. Number 1, money is, we need to save our money. I was reckless with my money before I started seeing the power of investing. I grew up in a very conservative family, but blue collar, if you will. My uncles, my grandpa, they were truck drivers, but they saved their money. They paid cash for cars and cash for houses. I believe in that so much. My son, I've pounded that in my son as our youth are coming up and they're learning. We need to talk to our kids about money and show them by example. We can't just say do something but not do it ourselves as parents. So it was really cool to have my son involved in learning and seeing people yielding interest and getting properties. And now look at him. He's at the University of Utah. He's not doing it as much for me right now. I'm trying to get him over here, but he wants to be in forensic psychology. So he is not studying it, but he has 5 properties now, and he had them by the time he was 18. He'll be 20 next month. I mean, I think that I didn't mean to do it. I wasn't like, oh, I'm being the best parent, but I led by example and brought him in with me, and I just am fast. He became fascinated with it, and he's really good with his money.
That's amazing. Yeah. I mean, and that's how you learn. You learn by example.
Absolutely. And another thing I believe in is being vulnerable. Having confidence as a woman, right? A lot of women don't have the confidence to go out there and do investing and saving. It's fundamental. That confidence is fundamental to request education or learn and grow. Let people know if you're struggling. Like, don't be, be vulnerable and be open to learning. And like for me, I tell people, like, tell me when I'm wrong, teach me something. I'm soaking it in. And I wasn't always like that. And so I think that's powerful. That vulnerability is really, really powerful.
Yeah, it absolutely does. And it helps you connect with the right people and the folks that are going to not only play a big role in your life, but also in business.
Absolutely. Like investing, if you're wanting to just start out with investing, I do recommend finding that mentor and, or just start searching online, just taking step one and start that education. Have the confidence to just know you can go in there. If it's overwhelming, it will. I remember I had a light bulb moment. And as I do video conference education, and because I do advanced education as well, where I'm coaching, and we'll have maybe 8 people in my Wealth Builder class, and when they have the light bulb moment, in maybe session 3, when they finally got it, because it takes a minute. Investing is hard to understand, ROI and interest and things like that, compounding. It's hard to understand, and it's a little overwhelming. But have somebody kind of walk you through it. If you're brand new, if you're a newbie, have somebody mentor you for sure.
Absolutely. Where can my listeners learn more about you? Where can they find more information about you, and how could they get in touch?
So we're on Facebook, of course. We have about 20,000 followers. I need to be way better on doing posts, and I'm looking for somebody to do my Facebook stuff. So we have about 20,000 followers on there. We have our website, of course, where it's just taxlienwealthsolutions.com. We have a contest running right now. So you guys want to go over there, because I'm providing a $3,000 mentorship. It's a drawing that we're doing, a monthly drawing that we're doing. And you'll be able to go in there and either get a $3,000 mentorship package from myself that I'm doing, and also we are doing a one learning portal per subscription a month, which is $1,000 value, and then just some Amazon gift cards. We're on LinkedIn, Tax Lien Wealth Solutions. We're on, that's YouTube. We have a Tax Lien Wealth Solutions YouTube channel. We're not super active in there yet. I'm trying to be more. Just if I had 27 hours in my day, it'd be a lot easier. But yeah, that's an Instagram, of course, just Tax Lien Wealth Solutions.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's so many hours in the day, right? We all wish we could have a couple more, but you're doing a fantastic job, and very, very impressed with your company, the strategy, the content that you put out, the education. So learning a lot. So appreciate you coming on, and thank you so much for sharing your knowledge around this very, very interesting strategy with my listeners.
Yeah, no problem. And you guys get into tax lien investing. If you have questions, another thing I was going to say, we have a chat bar on our website. If you don't want to call in or do anything like that, you can either do that or just submit an inquiry. We have what's called our tax lien guide, which shows you how we work inside of my company, and how it's founded, how it operates, and how the secondary market works. Go over there and just download the guide. You'll have to enter in your email, I believe, and then it just sends right to your email. It's really, really detailed and an easy read for anybody that's new to wanting to get involved. Go get that tax lien guide on the site too, for sure.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much again for connecting and coming on the show.
No problem. Thank you.
Life settlement investments have allowed financial and banking institutions to not only buy their equity contractually, but also diversify their capital from any economic, market, and geopolitical risk. It's been part of the billion-dollar blueprint followed by institutional investors. And if you're an accredited investor, you can also now participate in this vehicle with enormous growth potential. You can watch an informational webinar presented by one of the premier organizations providing life settlement investments, Penumbra Solutions, at cashflowninja.com/life settlements. Thank you again for joining me on the Cashflow Ninja. If you like what you hear and appreciate what we're trying to build here, please subscribe, rate, and write a review for our show on iTunes, and share our show with family, friends, and your network. If you're not a subscriber to our newsletter, you can sign up for our newsletter at cashflowninja.com. I want to thank you for spending your most precious resource with me today, your time. Until next time, my friend, live a life of passion and purpose on your terms. This presentation is for educational and informational purposes only. The information being presented and considered does not consider your particular financial objectives or situation, and it does not make personalized recommendations. This material is not intended to replace the advice of a qualified tax and legal advisor or other qualified professionals, and you should not use the information in place of a customized consultation with a licensed professional regarding your specific personal financial objectives, situation, and needs. We believe the information provided is reliable, but we do not guarantee its accuracy, timeliness, or completeness.